Okay, thank you everybody for joining us for the first breakout room of Tuesday at Open Source Summit EU. As Trevor could tell you, I never need a microphone, so this is actually a treat for me. Usually I just yell. But today we've got a pretty interesting session, and we really appreciate all of you coming out to see it. We're talking about decentralized technologies and public infrastructure. My name is Bohan. This is Iulian Nita from EBSI. We're going to talk about the work that EBSI is doing. Some of it's directly related to my work at the Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust and one of our projects, Bezu. For everybody joining us, I've got links at the end, so pretty much everything we're talking about, there's both QR codes and URLs if you don't like QR codes, so you should be good to go with that. But as I say that, I should probably get my notes out. All right. So we weren't sure what kind of room we were going to get. And instead of putting a chair up here and Iulian feeling like he's being interrogated by a group of 30 people, we figured we'd just do this like, he's got the hand mic and I've got this one. But Iulian, please introduce yourself and tell us, what is EBSI and what do you do?
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. It's the first time I talk about EBSI because I'm not an official of the European Commission. I'm a consultant. But because of the holidays, they couldn't come, so they sent me here. It's a project that I'm working with for about 7 years. It started in 2018. It's a joint venture between the European Commission and the member states, Norway and Liechtenstein. And they started with what they call the European Blockchain Partnership. It's the initiative of the European Union to use the blockchain as a technology in public services, in European public services, to offer the citizens of Europe a better way to do this transition to digital and to have all the public services in a digital infrastructure. As the name saying, European Blockchain Service Infrastructure, it's mainly about infrastructure. So you won't find the end application, you'll find a network of nodes, a network of public institutions from different European countries that are connected in a blockchain network, in a peer-to-peer blockchain network, without a central authority to govern it, and that is done in a fully decentralized and distributed way.
That's an awesome definition. Thank you for that. So it's all the member states of the EU are involved in this initiative, correct?
All the member states are invited, not yet all of them are connected.
Sure.
Okay, so we have about 20 member states that are already connected and few others that are in the process to join the network.
And at this stage of the project, who are the stakeholders? Like, who are you engaging with? Who do you want to engage with right now? What comes down the road? Who do you serve, basically?
Yeah, there are mainly Ministry of Digitalizations from different European countries. Agencies, public agencies, universities, and all of them are together into a consortium. They discuss between them, they build use cases, they try to find ways to use public services from one country being compliant with the same public services from the other country, and the way to interact between them.
Awesome. Paolo De Rosa from the European Commission. In my other job at the Linux Foundation, I work on the Open Wallet Foundation, so there's a little bit of overlap with some of the work I do with these teams. He's described wallets as being public infrastructure. Like that these are public goods. When you're thinking of this network that you're building within Europe, what are the values? Like, Europe's got a strong privacy protection. It's working on things like directives around the digital sphere. What are the values that the European Commission brought to this project and said, hey, this has to be baked in?
Yeah, here we talk about distribution and decentralization. It's a project that it's governed together by all the member states. The European Commission is building it, is financing it, but it doesn't want to be involved, like leading the way each public institution is interacting with their citizens in their countries. So, since the beginning, that was the the core fundamentals of EBSI look at it like being a distributed and decentralized IT system for digital public infrastructure.
Very cool. If this were a startup, we would ask about the business model at this point, but it's not a startup. How does the European Commission see sustainability in this effort? How do you make it sustainable? How do you both attract government players to participate, but also this isn't like a pilot. This is something for all of Europe.
Yeah, that's true, and this is a really good question because, as you know, all the public services are free for the citizens. So basically, we don't pay to use public services, but somebody is paying for it. And this way of building pan-European project, it works up to a certain level where the European institutions are putting money on the table to build it. Then it comes the moment to operate. So somebody has to take the ownership of this pan-European project and to operate it. And here is coming in place a new legal entity which is now being formed and which is even a new type of structure. It's called EDIC, European Digital Infrastructure Consortium, that will take over the ownership of the project. So now it's a transitioning phase from the European Commission to this new public entity which is specially created to operate this project. One of their mission is to find a sustainable way of keeping this project up and running without asking money from the citizens, without invoicing the citizens for the services. And what they have on the table at this moment are different kind of grants, calls for funding from different member states. There is also a membership fee that is paid by each member of this consortium, so each ministry, each agency from different countries, they are contributing to build it. And finally, they look also to business, to private use cases like banking, like bonds, like all this kind of financial services that will have at that moment in time a revenue stream for the project to be sustainable.
But effectively, you're building, you said before, infrastructure. And any given member state in the EU could do something different with that infrastructure. So I'm a citizen of the Republic of Ireland. They may decide, hey, we're going to really focus on the banking use cases, whereas another member state might say, no, we're really focused on academic credentials or healthcare. That's by design, right?
That's by design. From a technology point of view, you're right. So any kind of use case can work on the infrastructure, but also we have to look at the regulation, because being public institutions, the main focus is to serve the citizens by public services. The private sector, it's something else that can use the infrastructure, but is not on the same, let's say, on the same direction with the public services. Okay, so technically speaking, it's possible, and I'm sure that it will come this moment to host banking and private entities, but this will have to go like firstly being a successful infrastructure for the public services and governmental organization, and then to open the gates to additional use cases.
Very cool. Now this is, oh, yeah, sure. So the question, because this is being recorded, the question is, can you talk a little bit about the use cases, what is being solved?
That's my next question. Okay.
Well, use cases are starting with decentralized identity. So in this project, we foresee a decentralized identity for all the European citizens. Then on top of the decentralized identity, of the self-sovereign identity, are coming a lot of use cases related to verifiable credentials, like diplomas, certificates, driving license, and so on. So EBSI, as a let's say, as an ecosystem of use cases, is building on top of a verifiable credential framework. Then another family of use cases is related to traceability, digital product passport, traceability of documents, authenticity of documents, and so on. And recently, adding new use cases, we talk about IP rights management in a distributed and decentralized way, and also about carbon credits tokenization, a way to tokenize the carbon credits.
Thank you. That explains a lot. My follow-up question is different use cases may require different properties of the blockchain technology. The speed versus something else.
Yeah, not at this point. The way it's built, this kind of verifiable credential framework, is that we don't store on the blockchain private data. So not all the transactions are stored on the blockchain. What is stored on the blockchain is what we call the public registries. So all the issuers, all the verifiers, all the governmental institutions are registered on the blockchain in different smart contracts, and the interaction between issuing and verifying these credentials is happening off-chain. So the speed that is required at this moment is low and it's fully manageable with the technology we have here. Of course, we think about reaching a point of scalability when the number of records and the use cases will grow. And exactly like it's happening now in the public blockchain part, like having layer 1, layer 2, even layer 3, and the bridges between them, we foresee for EBSI, for this European infrastructure, what we call the network of the networks, because most of the transactions are happening at the country level, and from time to time you need to verify one document issued in one country going to another country. And then EBSI will be seen like a layer 1. All the other countries will have their own ledger. All of them are connected into a network of networks. So basically this bridging between one country to another will be done to a settlement layer like EBSI, and the requirements will be lower than putting everything together.
If you think about it, with your physical ID, far more reads than there are writes. You get a new driver's license every couple of years, but you might show that driver's license 20 times in a week. Or when you come to an event like this, at the airport, at the hotel, you need it to, when you buy dinner because they want to check the credit card. So that's why there's a differential between the writes and reads argument. So yeah. Yes?
What are carbon credits?
What are carbon credits is the question.
There is a project at the European level where all the private entities or public entities that are producing different kind of goods are burning gas, it produces carbon. And then on the other side are other entities that are consuming this carbon from the air with different methods. And then it has to be an offset between the one that are producing and the one that are recycling the carbon. And it happens with credits. Now, these kind of credits are done on paper in, let's say, centralized IT systems that can fail, that can be double spending, can be fraud. Yeah, it's difficult to offset some carbon credits from one country in a different country, or it's difficult to not offset it twice. Okay? What is the European Commission looking at? It's like a European system of digitalizing this kind of carbon credits, tokenizing them, putting them on a ledger, so then when you offset where you spend this carbon credit one time, it's erased. You cannot do it second time. Okay, so it's tokenization of these carbon credits.
The EBSI chose Besu, which is Enterprise Ethereum Client. Why? What were the criteria that it met? What were the things that you needed that only Bezu could do? How did you come to that decision? What was the sort of tipping point that said, all right, this is the selection for all of Europe?
Yeah, it's been a while since we made this decision.
Sure.
It's about 6 years. When we started EBSI, with this goal to build a European blockchain service infrastructure, like the first governmental blockchain, and we were looking in the public space to all the ecosystems like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and so on, and many others. We asked ourselves, what's the best choice to get inspiration from the public blockchains, but to be aligned with the governance, regulation, and all these specific requirements related to the governmental institutions. And then, having so many options on the table and being at the beginning of the process, of the project, we took like about few months to research all the technologies based on a clear set of requirements and principles. And one of them was being open source. We wanted to build EBSI using only open sources technologies. Now in EBSI it's a full stack project. There is no proprietary or vendor lock software in that architecture. Then we wanted to have EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine. Why? Because we need to deploy and develop smart contracts. And at that moment, and I think is still the case today, the most developed programming language for smart contracts was Solidity. So we were looking to have EVM compatibility. Then we were looking to not spend energy, like Ethereum and Bitcoin at that moment in time were doing, right? We don't want to use the governmental computers to mine blocks, right? So we were looking to a different kind of consensus algorithm. And here was the trick, because there are not so many clients on the market that allow you to use a proof of authority consensus algorithm. This is what we are using, right? So that's completely different than proof of work that is used by Bitcoin, is different than proof of stake that is now being used by Ethereum. In EBSI we use proof of authority, and more specifically, going deeper in this family of consensus algorithm, we were looking to use consensus that gives you finality. Means that once a block is mined, there is no chance to have a fork where to go on a different side. Okay, so this was the one of the criteria. And then we ended up with IBFT2 and now QBFT, which is mostly available, I think is the only one available now in Bezu. Okay? So open source, EVM, consensus algorithm, and the fourth criteria was to have an active development with that client, because it's not us that is developing, we are just using, configuring it and using it. We were looking in the market to see who is the most active community for the clients that they are promoting, which have, I don't know, a roadmap, which have like regular commits on the GitHub. You have support, you can ask somebody why it's not working, what is not working, and so on. So having these four criteria in mind and putting them in a matrix, comparing with all the other available clients on the market, we ended up with best decision Bezu, and we are happy with the choice.
I'm biased. The Bezu team is pretty great. Just saying. So we talked about why by the way, we're at Open Source Software EU, so obviously it's an open source solution that you came up with, and we do appreciate that. We talked a little bit about why there were certain non-negotiable requirements that you had, things that had to happen. Can you talk a little bit about the smart contracts? Like what is your vision for smart contracts within EBSI, both at a network level, but also at an individual state level? Like what could be done with these things?
In EBSI, we have smart contracts, but it's not like in the public blockchains, where everybody is allowed to develop and deploy a smart contract. The deployment of a smart contract in EBSI is very well controlled, meaning that only a limited set of developers and product owners are allowed to deploy smart contracts. And all the smart contracts that are now deployed in BESU are because there is a business requirement for them, right? They are aligned with specific use cases. For example, we have registries of issuers, right? Entities that are allowed to issue different kinds of credentials. There is a smart contract, which is a public registry. And for this smart contract, there is a specific set of rules: who is allowed to register there as a registry, who is allowed to update that registry, who is allowed to change the status of the entities that are in this registry. Then there is another category of smart contracts which you use for schemas. Every document that is issued, every credential that is issued, it has to respect a specific standard, right? If we talk about studies, diplomas, there is a specific schema that can be used for all the diplomas in Europe. So in this way, we ensure interoperability and compatibility between all the universities in Europe. Okay? And then are a few other set of registries that are specifically designed for this verifiable credential framework. Another category of smart contract is about traceability, right? Notarization, timestamping, traceability, which are open for the public, so everybody can register a timestamp, okay? But nobody is allowed to modify the smart contract, okay? Not even the developers. So we respect all this principle of smart contract, what is a smart contract, but we limit who is allowed to deploy smart contracts. And on top of that, every smart contract that is deployed on the EBSI infrastructure has to go through an audit, to a security audit, okay, which is paid by the European Commission. It has to go with this security audit.
Cool, thank you. How is EBSI measure? Well, actually, before we do, no. How is EBSI measuring success? Like right now, and also when you look at this roadmap and you're looking at the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, how are you measuring that success? I put the hardest question up front.
I have a personal opinion here. I measure success based on usage. So when I see that the system you are building is being used and the usage is increasing, for me this is success. There are also some other criteria that we take into consideration. How different are the use cases that are using and how many? Okay, because we don't want to build EBSI only for one single use case and to see the entire usage is coming only from that use case. So its usage, it's the different types of use cases that are building on it. And also, one important thing in building an infrastructure is the number of the members, the number of the nodes in this blockchain network. So the success, a successful infrastructure, blockchain infrastructure network, is based on the numbers of the peers that are joining this network. Of course, we want to see them increasing. The more we have, the more reliable and secure is the network. So this is the third principle that we are measuring the success. Yeah, so that's a pretty cool real-time map of what is EBSI at this moment. Okay, all the European countries you have represented with some dots, all the members in that network, different colors because we have two categories: regular nodes that are just participating, connecting to the network, and validator nodes which have a very important role to validate and to create and to sign all the blocks in the network.
Cool.
I think we have somebody.
Oh, is there a question? Yes.
Sorry, I don't hear.
The question was, can you tell us about the native currency of this blockchain and the consensus algorithm?
Okay, that's a good question. There is no currency for this network. Okay, all the transactions in this network are free. We control in different way the, let's say, the risk of being spammed, of misusing the network. So there is no crypto token, there is no cryptocurrency related to this blockchain. And this is coming from the consensus algorithm that we are using, because it's a proof of authority, and specifically it's QBFT consensus algorithm. All the validators in that network are known peers. Okay, so we know each of them, we know who is that peer, and there is a very well established process of becoming a validator. You register firstly as a regular node, we see how performant is your node for about 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, and then we decide to ask the existing validators to perform a vote to upgrade your functionality. Okay?
Do a quick follow-up question to the gentleman, and then you in the black, sir.
So, what's the benefit for the nodes or the validators to validate plus actually, so what do they get in return for their resources and platform?
What is the benefit to the node operators? What do they get in exchange for participating in the network?
Yeah. First of all, there is a very small effort for them to be a validator. Running an EBSI node, it's doable even with a laptop. Of course, we don't recommend it, but in terms of resources, you don't need more than a virtual machine. Then, the benefit of being part of this network is that you are a ministry or an agency in your country, and having a node in EBSI, it allows you to give services to your citizens, to expose the APIs and to expose the services that are built in EBSI to your local or national use cases. And then all the members that are part of these networks are somehow funded by their governments. So this is completely different, and I understand from your question is completely different than the ethos of public blockchains, where there is a competition to be there is a competition to be a validator, and there is a stake to be a performant one. Here it's funded by their local governments. It's an opportunity for them to be part of a European network and to offer the public services to their national citizens.
Sir?
Do you have a preference of the infrastructure providers that these countries are using for hosting your network?
Is there a preference of infrastructure providers that these countries are using to host their networks?
We have a quite different typologies. Most of the nodes are having their infrastructure in their own data centers. They have already data centers for the IT systems of that institutions. They use one virtual machine for EBSI. Some others are using public or private clouds, AWS, Azure, and some other cloud providers. But in terms of requirements or preferences, as long as they are complying with the minimum technical requirements, there is no obligation to what kind of infrastructure or kind of service to use.
Sir? No, you. Yep. How is the interoperability of this blockchain with other blockchains?
As I said earlier, we did a big research and challenge and looked to the blockchain to be EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine compliant. So at this moment, when we need or if we need, we can interconnect EBSI with the public, with any public or any other network that is EVM based. Okay, you know, this kind of bridges that allows the transactions or the identities to be broadcasted from one engine to another. As long as it's EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machine compatible, we are there. So we follow the roadmap that also BESU is following. We do all the upgrades, we do all the checks to be up to date with all the progress in the EVM space.
Cool. In a lot of conversations about decentralized technologies, trust comes up. Governance is a big part of what EBSI is looking at. Is there a trust framework? Is that in development? Is that something you're looking at?
Yep, the trust framework is exactly what we are building on EBSI. Is this verifiable credential framework, which is equivalent to us to the trust, because the way it's built, it has 3 roles that are very easy explained and very straightforward. One is the issuer, one is the holder, people like us, citizens, and the third one is verifier. So having these 3 roles in a framework and defining very well the process of interacting between them, then, of course, if you trust the system and if you trust the network and if you trust the governance of the network and so on, the technology part, it works straightforward because you have 3 roles, everything is standardized, and then the trust, it's built by the governance of the IT, of the system, of the IT system, by the simplicity of interacting between them, and by this kind of, where you don't need to verify what's behind the hood. You trust that the issuance and the verification of the credentials is just working.
So this is this is public infrastructure. And it's pretty ambitious. What's the timeline? Actually, let's do the timeline, then I'll get to your question. What's the timeline? What's your roadmap right now for the EBSI initiative?
Okay. As you saw earlier on the map, there is already a pilot environment which is up and running. Okay, so there are 40 nodes connected. There are about 150 different legal entities that are piloting their applications on it. And aside of the pilot environment, which is up and running for about 4 years, this year we launched the pre-production and production grade environments, which are now at 24 members, 24 nodes in the network, with the goal to move in production next year. As I said, is this transition between the European Commission and the new legal entity that is being created. So the project will flow from one organization to another, and the mission of this new organization is to operate EBSI in production. That's why the transition, the planning, and the goal for next year to be in production.
Okay. How is EBSI connecting into existing ecosystems? And actually, wait, before I do that, sir, you had a question. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And digitalizing everything and citizenship, what are we doing with citizens who aren't able to do digital stuff?
What are you doing for citizens who are unable to do digital things?
For example, because disabilities, because elderly, because not having budget for smartphone, what are we doing for them?
Yeah, it's a question that I cannot ask. That I cannot answer. Like a personal opinion, we talk about digitalization for decades, and some countries are more advanced, some others are going lower, and I think EBSI is already one step above the digitalization. Okay, so you cannot use EBSI, you cannot go into EBSI if you don't have already a process to digitalize documents, identity, whatever at your country. So EBSI doesn't fix the problem of digitalization, it just improves the interoperability, this kind of cross-border, at European level, cross-border public services.
Yeah. And within the ecosystem, there's a ton of work going into just that, and for folks who are disabled or who do not work in the digital sphere, but also the refugee use case and the disaster use case. We just had huge wildfires this year in California. You're grabbing your kids and the dog and running out of the house. You're not going back to get your college diploma. How do you restore all these credentials? And that's a big part of the conversation. Sir.
What about compromised nodes? I heard it's a trusted network, but once a hacker
What about compromised nodes is the question.
Well, like in any blockchain, even if we talk about public or private networks, the consensus algorithm and the architecture itself, it allows the compromise of up to, in our case, to 1/3 of the nodes. So even if we have 1/3 of the nodes compromised, based on the consensus algorithm and the way the blockchain works, the network is still fully operational. Okay? It can happen, we take it into consideration, we have monitoring tools, we have alerting systems that we can detect, we have even security checks that we are doing. As soon as we see that the node is compromised, or at least we suspect that the node is compromised, we have a process to put on hold that node. We call a suspension process. It will be on hold. We will ask the node operator to check what's going on. It can do a reinstallation from scratch. It doesn't lose any kind of data. As soon as it's again secure and up and running, it's just very easy to join back the network.
And to that point, one of the design principles that went into this way back when, before I got involved in the space, was around non-correlation. And Iulian mentioned it before, you don't want to hold personal data on any of these networks. Someday in the future, it may be illegal to be a New York Yankees fan or something less. You don't want to have that on an immutable ledger that's going to live forever. So there's some safeguards that are built in there by design. We've got 4 minutes left. Wow. All right, other than this amazing interview with this very good-looking crowd, how is EBSI getting the word out about what you're doing, about this work?
Well, there are few channels. One, and the most well-known and used one, is the social media. So we have a very active PR team that is publishing documentation, details, use cases of this kind of insights about EBSI on the website, on the LinkedIn account, on Twitter. I think when even on Facebook we are present. Then there is a recurrent, there are recurrent sessions organized with different public bodies from different countries on specific use cases or specific topics. So basically they are gathering together and they promote the progress of the technology and the use cases. And there are also, and it's been a lot of them, about 6 or 7 funded projects, funded programs, okay, with different, even private or public entities in consortiums that were building on different topics. And basically each of them were like a vector of promoting the technology and the respective use case.
What keeps you up at night?
Wow, that's a good one.
My dog, in my case, but yes.
I listened carefully some questions from the public, and indeed one of the things that are keeping us up during the night is the security. Because we said we build a trust framework. We want to build the trust in the system itself and work smoothly, and do not, when you use it, to not care about what's behind the hood. And then one of the topic that it's very, we have a very big focus is the security part. Because you know, once a security vulnerability is happening and it's exploited, the trust is over. You can work years to build trust and you destroy it in 1 hour, in 1 minute. So we pay very much attention to the security. And here we talk about the security of the smart contracts, doing regular audits, the security of the APIs that we are exposing, pen tests and so on, a full security flow that we have implemented in the development of the entire system. So every commit that is going in the deployment, it has to go through a security check. Okay, so we really pay a lot of attention to it.
Awesome. How can we, the open source community, the people in this room, citizens of the EU, How can we help? What do you need? What does EBSI need? Like, what's your most primary pressing need right now?
Okay, that's related to the security, and one of the things that we are exploring now to integrate or to build or to adapt, it's how to make all these nodes unhackable. And the only thing that it's exposed, or it might be exposed on that node, is the private key of a validator. You have 50, 20 validators in the network, each of them having a private key which it's used to sign the blocks. And right now, it's on the node, it's on the VM. We want to move it out of the node and put it into our hardware security module. Okay, a fully encrypted security device that it's built to store that private keys, and we want to do this upgrade. We need the support of the community to look at this HSM, to help us to integrate, to maybe share from the experience they have, and to finally integrate in the infrastructure.
As you're moving to that, have you considered using confidential computing, TEs, to isolate that? It's not quite the same as an HSM, but it gives you significant improvement over standard organization.
Have you considered using confidential computing?
TEs,
TEs.
No.
Okay.
I would be happy to find more about it, yes.
Okay.
Selfishly, I'm going to ask a question for me. Is there a chance your team might contribute to the BeiZu project?
Not sure if to the BESU project, but
Okay.
we can contribute to the whole open source ecosystem, because we build EBSI like being open source, and we just released the EBSI in a box, meaning that whatever you saw here that we built in 7 years, now it's available to the open source community. It's including also the BESU client in it, so you just download an image and you have everything like building the network, using BESU, smart contracts, API, it's everything by the box.
Awesome. And for the folks in the room, I've got this slide and a QR code slide, partly because I get yelled at for just doing QR codes, so in case you don't like QR codes, you also can take a picture of this one. Where can we learn more about EBSI and the node operator proposal process? Because I thought when I asked you what do you need, you were going to say more node operators, and that was a much better answer, but where can we find out more?
We have our website under the European Commission umbrella, of course. There is a specific and a clear process to onboard nodes. As long as you represent a public entity, an agency, a governmental institution, you are very welcome to join the network.
Awesome.
Okay, it's going by approval. As I said, all the nodes in the network have to be known. There is an approval process. We are today at 40 nodes, and we aim to reach 100 by next year when we want to go in production.
Very cool. Okay. On the screen right now, I would like to thank everybody for joining us today and for the awesome questions. We got a link to the EBSI website, that network map I just showed you a few moments ago, and the process for becoming a node operator. Also, the Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust has a new case study that came out last night, how BeiZu helps governments meet citizen needs while rebuilding credibility. And this includes the EBSI team, LACChain in Latin America, and RBB in Brazil. These are all governmental organizations who are working together using BeiZu to start building out these networks. I would also like to point to everybody, if you get a chance, check out Trevor's session from yesterday. It's been recorded. It'll be up in the Book of Proceedings or whatever the Linux Foundation is doing for this event. He talked about biometrics and decentralized identity, and it was a really solid 40 minutes, so definitely take a look at that. And I'd like to thank Iulian for being such an awesome guest, and this was not an interrogation. I promised you we wouldn't do that, and thank you all of you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. It was very nice to meet you.